Essay point number 7. The phrase, "it is holy to the Lord," in Leviticus 27 does not make tithing an eternal moral principle. The phrase, "it is holy to the Lord," in Leviticus 27 does not make tithing an eternal moral principle. Yet when I hear tithe teachers today, they all quote Leviticus 27, and they leave out certain portions of the verses to suit their own purposes. And they quote these verses to show that tithing is called holy to the Lord. And their logic is that since tithing is called holy to the Lord, it must be an eternal moral principle. And therefore it carries over from the Old Covenant into the New Covenant. There are serious problems with that interpretation from the Word of God. I want us to read Leviticus chapter 27, verses 30 to 33. "And all the tithe of the land, whether of the seed of the land or of the fruit of the tree, is the Lord's. It is holy unto the Lord. And if a man will at all redeem any part of his tithes, he shall add thereto the 5th part thereof. And concerning the tithe of the herd, or of the flock, even of whatsoever passes under the rod, the 10th shall be holy unto the Lord. He shall not search whether it be good or bad, neither shall he change it. And if he change it at all, then both it and the change thereof shall be holy. It shall not be redeemed." There are 4 errors in these 4 verses that the errors are preached on today from churches across the land. The first error they commit is they change the definition of the word tithe to include money and things that man has produced. The biblical definition from these texts themselves, from the context itself, is that the tithe was the tithe of the food, of the land, and of the herds, and nothing else. The second error preachers commit when they quote these verses is that they call the tithe the first fruits. They probably want to make sure they get theirs first. The verses clearly say that the tithe is the 10th. The word tithe means 10th. The word first means first. And tithes and first fruits are not the same thing in the Word of God. A third mistake preachers make from these verses is to call the tithe the best. The verses clearly say that the tithe is the 10th, whether it is good or bad. Yet preachers ignore this and call and act like all the tithes are the first fruits and the best that should be brought to the churches. Another thing that preachers distort when they teach these texts is the meaning of the terms holy and most holy. These texts are in the last 5 verses of Leviticus. For 27 chapters, God has discussed everything in Leviticus, and almost everything in those 27 chapters is called either holy or most holy. Yet the church looks at all of these other things, and the vast majority of them they reject as being fulfilled or irrelevant or not relating to the Christian church at all. Where is your principle of interpretation? What gives you the right to say that all of these things that are holy and most holy are no longer relevant, but tithing is, as if tithing somehow exists apart and separate from the rest of the book of Leviticus? A fifth thing from these verses that preachers don't mention is verse 34, the last verse in the book of Leviticus. "These are the commandments which the Lord commanded Moses for the children of Israel in Mount Sinai. These are the commandments which the Lord commanded Moses for the children of Israel in Mount Sinai. Tithing, like the rest of Leviticus and the rest of the Old Covenant, was only given to national Israel. It was their covenant. In fact, several times God told Israel not to share its covenant with anybody else. And the proof is that the Gentiles were not allowed to bring tithes to the temple. Therefore, these 5 verses in Leviticus reveal 5 errors taught by churches today concerning tithing. They simply want you to think that the only thing these verses teach is that the tithe is holy to the Lord and nothing else seems to matter.